How does one even begin to describe a game as weird, zany, and full of itself like Death Stranding? Upon its release, a lot of reviews from major outlets had positive things to say about it. They almost all came with the caveat, it's good, but may not be for everyone. That's a terrible description of this game and an even worse review summary. The actual gameplay is very simple to discuss once broken down. It's not new. There's just a lot of systems in play here. And while most would view the main mechanic of most action games being combat, this action game has very, very little emphasis on combat, which some might find to be boring. To have a proper civil discussion about this game, which I know is a lot to ask for in this community, we have to ask ourselves, what's the point? And not in a sarcastic way, but legitimately ask what is the point of the game, to wonder and then engage with that question, honestly and sincerely. This is a game with a message, something Hideo Kojima wants to share with us about himself, and he is using known, quantitative gameplay mechanics set in an extremely high-concept sci-fi backdrop to share how he feels about life, and it can be very, very on the nose, and sometimes with very mixed messaging. It is equal parts contemplative and campy. So if the phrase, "it's good, but not for everyone," is a terrible one-liner descriptor, what would be a good one-liner that boils down the concept of the game in an easily digestible soundbite that is memorable and accurate to the experience of the game? How about, "This game is cuckoo go nuts bananas, and you absolutely have to experience the hell out of this insane premise starring a very naked Norman Reedus." To get a true appreciation of Death Stranding, we have to take into account the events surrounding its inception. The Konami-Kojima breakup. Konami decided they were done with Kojima and ousted him in a strange, passive-aggressive series of events that was played out very, very publicly. Yet, Konami denied everything the entire time. It was an odd thing to witness. A large corporation attempted to gaslight their entire customer base in the most obvious, thinly veiled way. We all knew what was happening. In all this, Hideo Kojima lost his baby, the Metal Gear Solid series. A series he kept saying he was done with for decades. After each game, he would claim, "This is my last!" And each time it wasn't true. Until it was. And not on his terms. Konami stripped it away from him, and in the most petty of all petty moves, made sure to remove his name from all promotional materials and even from the game cover. Someone really had a personal grudge against this guy. And not only did they take away Metal Gear from Kojima, they also canceled the Silent Hills game and went scorched earth with a playable teaser that was released in the PlayStation Store. You can no longer download it, even if you downloaded it before and deleted it off your hard drive. To say this is all nuts is an understatement. To add insult to injury, Kojima was barred, legally, from talking publicly about any of this. We still really haven't heard much of his side of the story. It could only be told secondhand. He was completely and legally isolated. This, for certain, had to be an extremely hard time for the guy, who I'm sure was hurting and feeling lonely. The company he had spent over 30 years working at and had helped build the brand's legacy in the gaming space had tossed him aside as if he were nothing. And during this entire time, they were lying about what was happening. They pretended as if everything was okay. He was just on vacation. Kojima was officially released from Konami in the fall of 2015, and in December was finally able to establish his own studio and begin working again after his non-compete clause expired. He finally re-entered public life in the gaming industry at E3 in 2016. Death Stranding was announced, complete with a reveal trailer. As bizarre and obtuse as this reveal was, it was obvious that during the last few months of radio silence, Kojima had fully formed the core idea of his next game, even if we didn't completely understand it. But it was obvious that the breakup with Konami had a large influence in the themes that would be presented. Internet commentators were already speculating that the baby naked Norman was holding and then losing represented Metal Gear. Part of the key of understanding Death Stranding is viewing it through this lens, with this context in mind. It's an extremely personal game to Hideo Kojima. It's also self-righteous with way too much exposition that likes to ramble on like your hippie uncle at family gatherings who is trying to sell you his self-published autobiographical ebook.
The unsold copies of Dad's autobiography.
But it's also a really great game if you take the time to understand it within the context of its inception and also look for the point that Hideo Kojima is trying to make. And this is where the bulk of my discussion is going to be. It's going to be on the point. We all like to make the case that video games are art, and the purpose of art is to explore ideas and express values. Art is a form of communication that speaks not just to the mind, but to the very soul of our being. It is commentary on human existence. The greatest movies, novels, TV shows, paintings, poems, and more all focus on the broad idea of what does it mean to be human. Each individual work zeroes on specific facets and details of those overarching questions. Art is a process we use to try to answer that big question, the ultimate question of everything.
42.
This is an extremely overly broad definition of art, obviously, but if we're gonna beat the video games are art drum and shout that they should be taken seriously, we need to accept that we're not always going to like or appreciate all art, but that doesn't automatically make it trash. Instead, we need to step outside of ourselves and ask, what's the point? How am I supposed to feel? Am I feeling the very thing the creators want me to feel right now? Are they successful? And that's part subjective, but also part objective. To fully appreciate Death Stranding, you have to step outside yourself and ask, what's the point? And not in that hypothetical, sarcastic way, but genuinely ask, what is Hideo Kojima's intent here? And thankfully, subtlety is not Hideo Kojima's strong suit. So answering that question is simple. I'm not asking you to forgive shortcomings. I'm also not saying you're not allowed to not like something, like this game. You absolutely are. We each have our own personal tastes, and time is a limited, precious commodity. If a game isn't jiving with you, you absolutely should not waste your time with it. Life is too short for that kind of nonsense. At the same time, admit that there is merit to the positive reception to something you may not have liked. So Death Stranding. In short, it's about Sam Porter Bridges, whose adoptive mama was the president of the United States, now United Cities, after this Death Stranding cataclysmic event occurred, which was a civilization-ending, world-changing event where the realm of the living is now constantly colliding with the realm of the dead, and everything the rain touches accelerates the passage of time, so things age really fast under the rain, which is now timefall. Now, everybody in society lives in either underground bunkers or in these cities to protect themselves from the BTs that roam the plains and timefall. Our boy Sammy is tasked with connecting these isolated cities and prepper stations to the chiral network, which is a new fancy high-speed internet that will bring everyone back together. This game is the farthest thing from subtle that you can't even call its metaphors. They're similes. Do you remember learning about similes and metaphors in school?
Partridge Farm remembers.
To describe this game as a glorified walking simulator isn't completely inaccurate. I don't think I've seen a game simulate the struggles of walking with a giant backpack before and done it this well. Every single mission is just a fetch quest with you taking a package from one location and delivering it to another. You're a mailman. It's often advantageous to take more than one order at a time so you can save on making multiple trips back and forth. But with that, you'll have a higher stack of packages on your back, making it easier to fall over and damage the precious cargo you're carrying. And it's somehow interesting and gamified, with a very unique take on the difficulty curve. The game starts out slow. Walking is a chore and way harder than it should be. And it's not just walking itself that's hard, it's, like I said, carrying too many packages. It's falling in deep water and getting swept away. It's using your motor trike to get over a mountain and crashing into rocks. Or driving a truck that gets stuck. Carrying a large, heavy container of materials that affects your balance. Getting caught by mules who knock you unconscious and take your cargo. And it becomes just a wonderful relief when you finally deliver your package at the end of an arduous journey. Everything you will need, the packages you need to deliver, the equipment you need to take to traverse the terrain, the replacement shoes you will need when the ones you're wearing break down, you have to carry with you. All that weight and stacks of boxes quickly add up. The very first thing you need to consider is, what do you absolutely need on your journey? Pack too many heavy boxes and walking is a chore. Stack your equipment too high and you'll have trouble maintaining your balance. You'll also have to consider the lost cargo and packages you'll find along the way that earn you likes and status points if you deliver them to their proper destinations as well. It's very easy for walking to become an arduous task. You may find yourself over-equipping at the start, but it does get easier. And it gets easier rather quickly, all thanks to the
asynchronous multiplayer.
Once you connect areas to the chiral network, ladders, climbing anchors, generators, structures, and even vehicles show up that other players have built and left for you to find. Suddenly you don't need all that equipment you thought you did. I can't tell you how many times I started my journey with too much equipment and didn't use a single thing, because someone left something for me to use at the right place, helping me out considerably. For a game that's played alone, you begin to feel deeply connected and thankful to those who came before and left their equipment for you to use. You're not in this alone. Everyone playing the game is helping everyone out. And now when choosing your equipment, you're not just choosing what you will need for yourself, but also what you want to give back. Sometimes it's leaving a ladder or a climbing anchor, or sometimes it's building an actual structure like a bridge or a generator, or a post box to leave materials for another player to find. All of this is to help each other out. And when you find something left behind, it instills this desire into you, the player, to leave something else behind for someone else to use. While it may not have invented a new genre of game, the game has established a cool new form of asynchronous multiplayer. Before connecting each new area to the chiral network, you are completely isolated and alone, fighting the terrain and wondering why you're even doing this. But once an area is joined to the chiral network in-game, it comes online in the real world. Other people's structures appear, signs of encouragement pop up. The return trek becomes a lot easier, and you can then add to what people have built, upgrading their structures, adding to their zipline network, or leaving behind a vehicle for someone else to use. It's the most interesting form of multiplayer I have seen. While I know it gets its origins from Dark Souls with its hint system, this takes the idea a step further, and what one person builds, another can add to it. Like roads, for example. The pavers require a lot of resources, a lot. So much that it would take a long time gathering them from different stations to get the road built. Thankfully, a player in one game can add the materials, and the materials they add show up in yours, and vice versa, meaning you don't have to add all the materials yourself to get a road paved. Everyone is working together, alone. It's beautiful. And that's where we get the point. Death Stranding is a lonely, slow, frustrating experience at first. You're supposed to feel all that. You're supposed to sigh in frustration at Sam's ineptness at walking. You're supposed to get frustrated by the slow pace and the harsh, unforgiving terrain. You're supposed to feel all of it. So when the area joins the chiral network and other people's structures and tools appear in the world, and then you can build your own structures as well, you become extremely thankful. And you even begin to feel a sense of connection to complete strangers. An odd sort of bond forms, especially after you take advantage of the structure over and over again. For example, during Chapter 3, I used this bridge and this generator several times. They became invaluable to me in my deliveries. Without them, I don't know what I would have done. They not only became helpful tools, but also comforting landmarks. And that is the point. The loneliness, the boringness, the slog of walking with a heavy burden is relieved when you connect to others. Even if you can't see them or even directly interact with them, you know they're there. And they are helping to ease your burden. And this creates a desire for you to leave something in return for someone else to discover and use, thus helping ease their burden, just like someone has eased yours. So in the game, Sam is building connections between strangers who may never meet, but is strengthening their bond together as a society. The game is doing the exact same thing in real life. I will never meet the person who left that bridge or that generator, but there is a bond there now. I am thankful to them. So the point of the game is, even in the loneliness, we still need each other. The isolation of modern living, we can and should still be encouraging and loving and helping one another. Even if you never meet, or know each other's names. By simply leaving a bridge, a ladder, a generator, a post box with helpful equipment, we're telling a stranger, hey, I left this for you, specifically for you, even if I don't know you exactly. And by doing this, you should know that you have value. You are worth helping. And this message is becoming even more timely with the current coronavirus outbreak. We are all in isolation, separated from each other in our homes. But we're also seeing connection happen through social media in a way that we've never really seen before. While the bulk of this game is walking and delivering and the difficulty curve is primarily in the terrain changing, there is some combat. And what I've always found interesting about Kojima games is his emphasis on non-lethal combat. Which is ironic since the Metal Gear series primarily takes place in war zones, yet there is a strong emphasis on engaging non-lethally with your enemies. So much so that in Metal Gear Solid 5, if you take a strictly lethal approach to combat, you turn into a blood-soaked demon. So to understand combat in Death Stranding, we have to explore the lore a little bit more. Because of this cataclysmic event of the realms of the dead and the realm of the living colliding, there are now essentially dark ghosts with umbilical cords floating around areas of the world. No big deal, you just need to sneak around them. Oh my goodness! These are called BTs, which stand for beach things, because the world of the dead is a sad beach in the New England coast. Obviously, these BTs make traversing the world a little dangerous, and that's where super mailmen like Sam come in. They deliver things that can't be 3D printed. They brave the elements, so to speak. There are also evil mailmen called mules who like to steal packages to deliver themselves or to just simply hoard. They like to try to knock you unconscious and steal your cargo to do stuff with. I really hope this is not a sex thing. I don't fully grasp their motive here. Later on, you do encounter crazed mules who do more than knock you out. They're trying to kill you because they're terrorists, which is a risky move because if an untaken care of dead body comes into contact with a BT, it creates a void out, which is a super large nuke-like explosion that creates more BTs. I think. I know the explosion part is right, but I'm not sure about the other part. It's not exactly clear, except for the fact that it's bad for a body to explode, so it does need to be burned, but you just can't burn the body because of chiral something or other, and it has to be taken to a special incinerator so the chiral ash doesn't make you cry. It's not very clear. This all sounds so weird to say out loud. I really wish I could explain this better, but I don't know who can without sounding like a crazy person. The tools you are given to take care of human enemies are bola guns and a non-lethal assault rifle, as well as a riot shotgun that shoots non-lethal stuff. You do gain access to a handgun, assault rifle, and shotgun, but if you use those on humans and kill a guy, you have to take the corpse or corpses to a crematorium, so it's not worth it. Suffice to say, dealing with human enemies, or any enemies really, is kind of a pain. But what is fun is when you knock out a mule, he'll drop his cargo, and then you can hold one of the triggers to grab the cargo in your hand and chuck it at the next mule coming at you and knock him out in one hit. Kind of like Jackie Chan with a ladder. So killing your enemies isn't worth it. It doesn't solve your problem, it creates a bigger one. But is it still worth to engage the mules and knock them all out? Well, you could do that, and then the area is free from mules for a little while, and other porters freely roam the plains like beautiful gazelle, not having to worry about the lions hunting them. And then they also help you out and offer you supplies and packages. Problem solved, right? Well, yeah, but the mules just come back and you have to deal with them all over again. They're just a never-ending problem. It is better to avoid and leave them be than it is to engage them. Only engage if you absolutely have to. I found myself taking longer routes around mule territory because they just weren't worth the hassle. Violence is not the answer. It literally solves nothing in the long term, even if it's non-lethal. Any violent solution is only temporary, and at what cost? The interesting portion of combat is when you have to engage with BTs, which are essentially death, like I explained earlier. The only thing that harms them is your bodily fluids, cause you're special, and your pee and poop have a unique effect on them. What is this game? You can use grenades made out of your own excrement, which acts as sort of a BT repellent, but the thing that really works against BTs is your blood. You have grenades that can be filled with your blood, and bullets that can be filled with your blood, and a rocket launcher that can shoot blood-filled rockets. only your blood can do damage. And here's the rub. Your blood level is also your health gauge. Run out of blood, and you die, just like in real life. So not only do you need to have blood bullets and blood bombs, you have to have blood packs equipped that replenish your blood so you don't bleed out. This is the only thing that works against the anus-faced dog ghost. We really wanted to go with the anus tentacle head. That's the direction. Okay, I mean, that's scary. That is scary. But for other reasons, not that you think. It's more gross than scary. But go ahead. We'll go with the anus-faced tentacle dog monster. It's not just any blood that can damage BTs. It's Sam's blood, and only Sam's blood. His blood is special. But by needing to use your blood to defeat the BTs is a very interesting choice, because killing the BT means effectively killing yourself a little bit. There is a heavy sacrifice you have to make. It requires the shedding of your own blood, meaning in order to defeat death, you have to die. These are the things that make Death Stranding so interesting from both a story and gameplay perspective. It's not exactly an exciting game, nor is it subtle or cohesive at times. But it is a game about the common bond we share as humans. How technology can fundamentally change the course of human communication and interaction, for better and for worse. The instrument of this advancement in connection is both the shackles that binds us from true human interaction and also to remain in touch with each other in the wake of a large natural calamity. The Death Stranding is an event that has isolated people into literal silos. It's no coincidence that Kojima chose to have the most interpersonal character interaction happen through holographs. There are very, very few people you actually interact with in person. It's mostly through terminals or through the cuffs that you wear. An image that shows that the instrument of our human connectivity is simultaneously the cause of our interpersonal relationship sickness and its cure. And current events are making this game even more relevant. Many of us are isolated in quarantine-like situations. Our personal interactions are now through Skype, Zoom, FaceTime, phone calls, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're projecting our avatars to each other and sometimes only interacting with a person's echo on social media. There isn't a more timely game than Death Stranding at the moment. We're literally living it right now. This moment, more than ever, is a good time to experience this crazy cuckoo go nuts bananas game with a very naked Norman Reedus. And it's also a good time to properly understand the point of this game. The point of the game is to connect with each other, even if it's not in real time. Okay, this is my first video. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed the thoughts behind it. And when I originally wrote this, I didn't mean to put Corona stuff in there. It just kind of happened because by the time I sat down to record this, it's kind of in the middle of my own quarantine. I don't have COVID-19. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't played this game, I highly encourage you, try it. I think some places might have it on sale. Get it. Enjoy it. I don't know how to close this out.